Hello, everybody. It's June 18th, and we're getting ready to have a little coffee with Jimbo. Pretend we're at Denny's, and we have our usual 9 o'clock coffee with our favorite table, our favorite waiter, probably waitress, huh? What do you think? Sit right next to the short order cook that's frying them eggs, scrambling them eggs, firming up that bacon. Yeah. I'll have a toasted English muffin, okay? And a cup of coffee. I can smell the muffin now. I just remembered a new feature of the Apple Watch. You know, you can, if your hands are full, you can tap. It's called a double tap. It's like pushing this. You can, software-wise, you can tell the watch what to do when you double tap, which means you just take your fingers and you go like this, beep, beep, and the watch detects your doot, doot. There it goes. Yeah. Don't forget to take your medicine. It's 9:04 a.m. Yes, it is. You look right there. 9:04:53. 5 seconds. It's going to be 9:05. We get on the air at 9:02. I give you about 60 seconds of uninterrupted epidemic sound instrumental, which you hear in the background. It's our no copyright on this 3-hour-long soundtrack. It's all instrumental, and it has a nice upbeat little beat. Just imagine that coming out of the speakers, out of the rooftop, the ceiling, if you will. There we go. Well, they're talking about Iran and how many missiles they got, and they had 3,000 missiles that they could launch. The bad news is that only 1,000 of them, can reach Israel because of its distance, and getting into, the population centers. You got about a 10 or 11 minute travel time from the time they launch them to the time, anyway, because of that, the computer systems, satellite systems, they can track it. And if it seems like, it can get damage property, equipment, airplanes, population centers, and they put it on alert Israel has 3 different weapon systems to watch out for these. And it shoots another missile up in the sky. I'm surprised they don't have, the laser systems that the U.S. is testing. Lasers not anything new. I mean, what could be better than, a laser's a light beam. Travels really fast, 300,000 meters per second. It doesn't have any atomic weight. It's all photons. But if it bursts out, with 200,000 or 300,000 watts of power, it can shoot a hole right through the missile. Explode its warhead. It can track, the computer, the servo mechanisms, today are so fast. And you don't have to worry about gravitational pull. There is a gravitational pull on a photon beam, by the way. If you're going to shoot something across a planet, the gravitational force of Neptune will bend it a little bit, maybe alter its path a little bit. But, in the scheme of things, something that is, 15, 20, 30 miles away is, for all practical purposes, light is not affected by wind. It's not affected by gravitational pull like a projectile, like a bullet. As it travels, it starts to come down towards Earth. If you shoot it straight, perfectly horizontal, by the time it gets to your target, 1,000 feet away, the bullet might drop, 5 or 6 inches. It depends on the weight of the projectile, the muzzle velocity of if you're shooting out of a rifle, whatever we're talking about. But a light beam, a computer, you recognize a certain target and you want to knock it down, you just press start and the computer goes through a little routine and decides, how out of focus it wants the beam to be. Because you don't want to shoot, a 1/16 of an inch hole through it. It may not, it may go, it's like getting shot with a bullet. It may go through the side of your body but not hit any organs. Well, when you're trying to shoot down a missile, you want to get all the organs you can get. So instead of having a light beam that's the diameter of my finger, which is probably not could very well be the diameter of my finger. The rest of what I'm saying is made up by Jimmy. But, if I were designing such a powerful light beam, with 300,000 watts of power, 300,000 megawatts, lots of watts. Huge, light sources, energizing that ruby crystal, and the light goes back and forth until it emerges out one end, but the light is energized by, incredible amounts of power. So that light beam has, it can burn a hole through a whole house. You burn a hole, you shoot a tree, it'll go right through it'll burn a hole right through a big fat tree. A tree that's 10 feet in diameter, you could burn a hole in it, 10 inches in diameter. Clean hole, right straight through the tree. Well, if you do that to a missile, I'd want to defocus that beam to 8 or 10 inches. There's so much power, and melt a hole right through that. Try to focus on the front end of the missile, so you're getting the warhead, or wherever these engineers can figure out what kind of missile it is just by looking at it. There's a telescope and the light beam are in sync with each other. That's why you see when you look at these test systems that are on aircraft carriers and so forth, you can notice several lens systems, and look at all this. I got all kinds of news about that. Anyway, so I'm surprised that we don't see laser systems. We could have loaned Israel a couple of these just to test out the capability of knocking out these missiles. The U.S. has got it. They could be shooting this stuff down from satellites. You can guarantee it that several satellites, at least one, put into space by SpaceX. Every once in a while they have a launch that's, that's secret, that's secret. Military satellite. Well, I guarantee you that military satellite has a laser in there, and several. And it can either kill other satellites or it can kill launches. When you're 40. Let's see, what is 44,000 miles above the Earth, you can have geosynchronous orbits. So the satellite is constantly over a certain area of the planet. So as the planet, rotates, so does the satellite. So the satellite is over a certain part of the planet all the time. Well, you can be sure they have 4 or 5 of them, so that every part of the planet has coverage with this laser cannons installed on it. Telemetry, you got satellite, you got numerous array of chips that will recharge, long-lasting batteries. Capacitors, could be capacitors. Capacitor is energy storage. And you energize that satellite to hit a laser beam that's focused on, whatever you decide to focus on, with incredible accuracy. Focus the beam, defocus the beam. Which in a sense widens the beam, so that it doesn't make a pinprick all the way through. It blasts a hole, a foot in diameter, let's say. So you can be sure with a supersonic, it doesn't matter because the light beam travels a whole lot faster than 10 times the speed of sound, which is fast for these missiles to go. So you only have you got a shortened amount of time for that satellite to focus on it, and bam. Yes. And of course it happens, so you can have, thousands of projectiles being aimed at the homeland or whatever land, and the satellite and just go bing, 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 and knock them all out, It'd be like fireworks in the sky. Lasers have been out a long time. And finally, they're starting to, over the last 4 or 5 years, they're installing them on destroyers and on aircraft carriers and, and satellites up above us. So it could be a satellite killer, it can be a missile killer. You could aim that beam at troops on the ground and, render everybody blind because of the brightness of the light. And anybody who looks up and sees that light, they're blind. Instantaneously blinded. Yeah. Just from the reflected light of the laser. When you're shooting a laser, that's hundreds of thousands of watts. What? Millions of watts. It can louse up digital cameras. It can louse up your retina. It can focus on a person walking down the street, and all of a sudden they zap them, and they go to the ground. Hit them in the head, and burst all the capillaries in the brain. Drops like a rock. I hear a lot of people complaining about particularly Democrats. Why is the Judiciary hearing, the Senate Judiciary Committee hearing about, Biden's decline? What the hell cares? He said, well, the reason why they want to, they want to understand who the hell was running the country when this guy's in a decline. When you're president of the United States and you got literally your hand on the whole arsenal of atomic weapons, namely, who's running the White House? Who's signing all those documents? Was Biden even aware that was happening? That's what's going on. So, aside from that, the Apple Watch, there's a picture that came up on my Apple Watch. You can touch 2 of the buttons on the Apple Watch and produce a print screen. There it is. There's at 8:43 this morning. The president is talking to somebody. Apparently I took 2 of those pictures. And there's a story about a breast surgery. The perfect breast. So as these celebrities age, they go back to their favorite plastic surgeon and say, "Hey, these suckers are starting to droop. I want perky breasts." Perky. Sunny side up. Yeah, they can. There are all kinds of exciting designs for breast implants. You know, they're little silicone pouches that are put in there, you know, above the chest. They have under the chest bone and on top of the chest bone. Now, who the hell would want to put it underneath? You know, you pump that up and you're lousing around with your breathing capacity, for Pete's sake. No, you want to put it, you know, right there in the middle of the mammary gland, right behind it, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. So they put these little pouches in there somewhere, presumably somewhere between the mammary gland itself and the nipple. A little nipple. The unspoken word. Nipple mania. Oh boy. Well, these celebrities, you know, they're on TV. They want to have what is known as the perfect breast. And we're not talking about turkey. So they put these little silicone bags in there, and they're 100 milliliter, 200 millimeter, 250 milliliter. They got every size, you know, depending on whether you got little tiny women or big women, you know, massive women. So they put these little, let's just say, 200 milliliter silicone bag filled with some kind of silicone fluid, or saline, and then they have a little tube that runs underneath, somewhere in the armpit, with a little receptacle at the end of that tube, so that, you know, in theory, a patient could go back to the plastic surgeon and say, you mind pumping these suckers up a little bit more? Can you throw in another 100 milliliters in there? So he fills up a syringe with saline solution and then use a little deadening material or something. And he stabilizes the appliance that's connected to the tube, and he injects right through the skin, pierces into the appliance, and then squirts, 100 milliliters of saline in that bag, and all of a sudden the breasts go bloop. They go bloop. And they get magically bigger. So, instead of a C minus cup, it could be a C plus cup, or a D cup, D plus, D minus, D squared, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, that's what the celebrities do, and they've got, tens of thousands of dollars available to make their bodies look perfect. Not to mention skin tissue, and oh my God, they massage, they put all kinds of creams and da-da-da. I mean, they've been doing that, since Cleopatra, 3,000 years ago. Rub tongue oil all over your skin. The oil from the tongue, T-U-N-G, tongue tree. Yeah, tongue oil is a magical. I have a can of tongue oil somewhere. and you wipe it on your furniture, and it produces a finish that's, a long-lasting finish to prevent spills and liquids and fluids from getting into the grain of the wood. So you just rub the tongue oil in there, massage it with your hand or a cloth or something. Having your hand on it presumably increases the temperature of the tongue oil. We're going to heat up the tongue oil and just pour it on the table, whatever. Yeah, it's a thick, has the consistency of, maple syrup. This is a nut. This is a tongue nut that a tongue tree delivers. And it's apparently part of the reproductive cycle of the tongue tree. Where little bees or insects, go flower to flower from the tongue flowers when they bloom, whenever that is. And then eventually the tongue tree delivers a tongue nut after the flowers go through their life cycle on the tongue tree. Well, you get the tongue tree and you shake it. Or, I don't know, you got to go over and prune all the nuts off. Anyway, the nuts are procured by some ergonomical machine, and then they clean off the nuts, get rid of the bark and extra wood or whatever that has accompanied the procurement of the tongue nut. So now you got a bunch of nuts, and then they put them into something and they squeeze it. Big time squeeze the tongue nut. So you have all kinds of different squeezing, and you squeeze it through a sieve so that the meat of the nut is separated from the tongue oil, which is, you squeeze the tongue nut and it has oil in it, So you squeeze out all the oil, you put it through several stages of strainers to separate it from any particulate matter, so you have pure, clear tongue oil. Then you can heat it in a pot and then pour it through a sieve or two. They're stainless steel strainers that are so fine that, I have several of them in case one breaks. I use it I use it every 3 or 4 days because I make pure tea. I have a mix of teas, Marilyn's favorite flavors. It's got bark chips, it's got all kinds of different things that companies have come up with to make a nice tea. And they have it in tea bags, and you can buy loose tea with the same ingredients. I mean, I was cutting open. I'm still cutting, massive numbers of, I don't know what happened, but I ended up ordering 300 or 400 bags of this one tea Maryland likes. So I cut open, I go in there and grab a whole handful of these pouches that contain the tea bags of this marvelous tea. And with scissors, I cut open the bags and shake out the tea. I've just found out you can buy the same exact loose tea, in a 1 pound bag or something like that. Anyway, but I don't want to use up the tea bags, because put it in a canister that seals up, add a little you know, breakfast gray tea, black tea, mix it up so that the resultant tea that gets brewed through this stainless steel strainer that is I don't happen to have one here. Oops. I'm just getting a little bottle. What is this? Wood polish. So just imagine this is a strainer. Turn it upside down. So you can see the physical size of this in relation to my hand. Hole in the top. You put 4 scoops. The scoop is, let's say, this volume. And, 1, 2, 3, 4. This goes on top of a glass pitcher. And I boil up 2 liters of water. It takes about 5 minutes. And the water is either smart water, which is a distilled water product, and they add a couple of little things in there to balance out for flavor and all that kind of stuff. And I buy gallons of distilled water. Let's see, 12. It uses like 20 gallons of distilled water a month, either through drinking the water or ice. I have 2 countertop ice makers, which manufacture distilled water ice cubes. Yeah, no, I don't use any water that comes out of the city. City water is terrible. So, Tehran. Yeah. Trump announced, changing the topics here. People of Tehran, better get out of your city. There's going to be some fireworks going on at the Ayatollah Khomeini doesn't surrender. Unconditional surrender. That's where you are now with negotiations. Talk time is over. He gave you 60 days. So on the 61st day, so forth, Israel's been, has air superiority. Total, absolute air superiority over the country of Iran. So all the major, delivery systems, radar systems, they've all been knocked out with rocket fire from, 1,000 sorties a day. 1,000. It's round the clock. I mean, you've got 250 planes, let's just say it's 240, all right? So, divide that by 10, 24 hours in a day. So, you got 10, 12, 20 jets taking off every hour, loaded with bombs. So, as soon as they take off, every 2 or 3 minutes the jet is taking off, loaded up with arms and loaded up with, the GPS coordinates of exactly what targets that have already been programmed into the war plan. Sounds like I know what the hell I'm talking about, huh? Well, every hour that, the governments of the world stay the hell out of this business. So, you got all kinds of people. Some people like it that Iran is getting beat up. Some Arab nations don't like it, that Iran is getting beaten up. Yeah. So, it's a 24-hour day, annihilation of a country that has been, in the business of trying to kill Israel. Well, Israel is getting its payback. So, anyway. And we've had several cabinet meetings, one of which was around 1:30 or 2 to 3 o'clock, or 1 to 3 o'clock yesterday, early afternoon. And every 3 letters of the alphabet, the CIA, the National Security Advisor, all these people sat around, in the conference room, the cabinet room, which is right next to the Oval Office. I've had a private tour of the White House, where they open up the doors and you can peek in the Oval Office. We peeked in the Oval Office. A door that opens up, it's like a blind door. You can see it. It's got brass handles on it. And our tour guide, who was a senior guy in the executive office of the White House. And so you can open up the Oval, and then there's like a corridor, and then you open up another door on the same side of the corridor, and that's the cabinet room. And next to that doorway is a wooden cocktail table, if you will, about 18 inches by 2 feet. And it's sitting right next to the entryway to the cabinet room. And you have to deposit your smartphones. You just drop it in the tray. Everyone knows what their smartphone looks like. You drop it in the tray. Because there is no cell phones allowed in the cabinet room while these private meetings are going on. They don't want, some wise guy recording it and then selling it to, a TV station for $10 million or something. Anyway, so the president now is loaded with all this information. I mean, as we speak, those B-2 bombers, which can carry 2 30,000-pound bombs, 2 of these bunker busters. So the idea is you drop one, and then, and it's loaded with the coordinates of where it's going to go. And then, they time it, it's, I'm going to say, 3 seconds, 4 seconds later, they drop the second one. So both these bunker buster 30,000-pound bombs are heading down towards their target. And the idea is one goes through, the hole, this geosynchronous spot, centrally located in the side of the mountain, where all this underground in the side of the mountain nuclear refining. It goes down there and it penetrates 200 or 300 feet of reinforced, concrete, whatever. And then it explodes. And you talk about a shockwave underground. Produces a huge fireball, which then pops out from behind the missile because these exploding gases have to go somewhere. So there's a lot of pressure that goes sideways, and a lot of pressure that essentially leaks out the hole, that the missile made in the ground. And you have this, huge, I mean, you got a 30,000 pound missile. It's probably got 25,000 pounds of, the highest energy. Instead of C4, it's C12 explosive. And it detonates, And then 5 seconds later, the second bunker buster goes right in the opening that's been created by the first one, and gives it, and then it has the ability to penetrate another 1,000 feet, into the side of a mountain or whatever. And presumably the Israelis are going to, their analysts and satellite telemetry experts they know where all this, they know what this underground facility looks like and how it's positioned in the earth, below the earth's surface, supposedly in an impenetrable. There's two things they can do. They can have the bunker buster goes through, and then the second one goes in 5 seconds later, even before the earth can settle from the first one. And then the second one, can penetrate another 500-600 feet. And the reinforcing is, basically rendered ineffective. And two of those suckers should pretty much shake, bury everything, fill in all the cavities. Because you just had, one hell of an earthquake. Bang, 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 and then bang, then, of course, then you have the after-action report that's created. If they can figure out, now what happens? What happened? Did that get neutralized? Totally. So they have, other jets that fly around the site to do some telemetry and see if, everything has stopped working. You cut off the power to this stuff. I understand that's a problem for when you have subterranean activities. Ventilation systems get completely disintegrated. You're basically getting entombed. The Moab, the massive air ordnance, mother of all bombs, MOAB, Moab. That's the nickname for this big sucker. So I think I read somewhere the U.S. has like 15 of these. Now Israel has some, penetrating subterranean kind of missiles that can be fired, into mountains, pockets full of military people, whatever. But these Moabs, you got a huge subterranean processing plant. This will obliterate it, and at the worst, bury it. So any chambers, elevator shafts, they'll all be, crushed, and in the surrounding soil, sand, if there's any aquifer at that sea level, whatever. That's what's on the menu right now. So is the B-2 bomber already on its way? Yeah, no one's going to say anything. You know. Trump has been hearing about this for a long time, so when he had his meeting yesterday, he could have had a meeting with Hegseth immediately after that meeting. And he could have told Peter Hegseth, go for it. Get that B-2 in the air and get those 2 Moabs and knock out that your nuclear refining system. Disintegrate it. If it takes 3 of them, you get 3 of them. If it takes 2 of them, 3 of them, 4 of them, whatever it takes. Knock it out. You got any other locations where you want to have a Moab dropped? Come up with a plan. So if we got 4 of them flying over there, and we have 2 of them for that, we got 2 more for something else. Let's make sure we completely dismantle Iran's capability of creating an atomic bomb. Because if Iran gets an atomic bomb, it's reported that another 20 countries in that in the entire Mideast, they'll all want they'll all want atomic bombs. When one country gets it, then the other gets it, then the other gets it. Trump is saying, nope, there will be no nuclear proliferation in this part of the world. We can't afford to have it happen. So there's all kinds of air reconnaissance going on, live satellite feeds that are all focused on certain areas of Iran. Let's see, I happen to have, Happy Father's Day. Yeah, thank you, Robin, and everybody. That's a card I received by special delivery on Father's Day. Getting back to Iran's nuclear facilities. You see this one right here? It says Fordow, Fordow, and a little arrow right there. That's and Natanz is another one. It has the red star, and then Fordow is just northwest of it. Those are the 2 uranium facilities. And a couple of those secret ones, but there's not much that can be secret when you've got satellites overhead looking down on you. You gotta, there's a lot of equipment that has to go underground. There has to be a tunnel, an opening somewhere. So you got a room full of people looking at the same satellite image, and they're watching. They grid out the entire Iranian territory, and they GPS coordinate every feasible. You watch a truck, a van, a Jeep. You're watching it, all of a sudden, whoop, it disappeared in the mountain. Well, that's a shaft You don't know which way that shaft goes, but Mossant. I tried to explain to people yesterday that Mossad is the Israeli form of the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency. And it's basically, they're all sworn officers of the United States government, and your allegiance notwithstanding, and they dream up everything there is to dream up about, this whole Iran nuclear facilities situation. And up north, around Ramsmar and Bonab, and some unknown, so they'll get all this. It's a target-rich environment, and they'll shoot these missiles into the ground and shake them up, and then see if anybody squeals out those tunnels. I mean, these ordinances are so dramatic. I mean, you think a good fireworks display at the end where they have those little bombs that they shoot up and explode, and the shockwaves that are sent out from those, healthy fireworks display. Usually those things are held to the end. They're shooting them at the police in L.A. right now. And of course, people are getting arrested and they get thrown in jail, and they'll sit in the pokey for 10 years or so. And 10 years will be taken out of their life cycle. And if we're lucky, someone in the jail will stick a knife in them or whatever. So that's what's going on. The B-2 can be already on its way. And Trump has already given his orders to make it happen. So then, the Defense Department has the plan all scheduled out. The bombs are loaded on the B-2, and they're airborne. And inside of about 11 hours, those nuclear sites. There's 11 hours from yesterday afternoon, so that's this morning. They'll probably strike it, in the middle of the night to make it a little as stealthy as possible. No sunlight. We have all kinds of infrared telemetry from the satellites that can look at they can look at the ground and see the outline of some kind of facility underneath. Because this certain amount of heat energy that's generated, by the people. You want to have an environment that people can work in. So that's, when you bury something underground in the earth, 8 feet under, if you measure the temperature of 8 feet under, it's about 48 degrees, 52 degrees, somewhere in that range. That's the temperature. It's kind of like not a cold refrigerator. If it was a cold refrigerator, it'd be about 40 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm speaking Fahrenheit. 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Freezing would be 0 Celsius. Anyway, so we're talking, 55 degrees. So if you got people in some kind of facility, and it's underground, you got machinery, these centrifuges are spinning. Takes a good amount of power to operate these centrifuges. They're large. Anyway, heat is given off. And the satellites have sensors that can see you can focus in on kind of like a reverse pinch. They can see in the side of the mountain and see what that looks like, and you see an outline of the facility. And before and after the bombing, with the idea of seeing if you can see, the structure basically collapsed underneath the ground. And you would think the whole surface of that mountain range would then depress as all the earth fills in all the little crevices. It not only blew everything up underground and made it, unusable, but because the shock wave is so huge, it'll collapse the volumetrics of those facilities. So Trump is going to plant a big flagpole somewhere near the White House. A big flagpole. He didn't want the island of Palm Beach, and they had a fit. Charged him, fined him, this and that. Went to court. They settled. And, how do you take down the American flag, for God's sakes? But, it needs to be properly sized. So it'll be a big one. There's a big crane in the background, I see. And you got a bunch of, contractors that have been hired to do this flag thing. They got their hard hats on and they're ready to dig a nice hole, create a reinforced iron structure. Lay visqueen in there. And you had 20 or 30 yards of cement to hold, the flagpole structure, rust-proof. I don't know if it's high carbon content or low carbon content. It's, subterranean iron, has to be, creosote coated and all this kind of stuff, so it'll last, hundreds of years. And then you have some kind of a big, steel beam that comes out of the ground. You put that flagpole right over that beam. Have screws that screw into it, whatever. So they could change the flagpole to, a new flagpole, slightly bigger, slightly shorter, whatever. You drive in around the White House, you're going to see a big flag. And you're going to have one in the front lawn, one in the back lawn. To make it real clear at these flagpoles that the flags suspended on these poles will be noticed. You can bet on that. And Trump is not disclosing anything about what their strike. I guess that order's been already given. And they'll basically be under the indirect control of the of Israel, and they're targeting sequences will be managed and monitored by the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, IDF. So, they won't come in, they won't talk to Trump, so they're going to, every day that goes by, Israel's got another couple thousand sorties, completed missions, as they go through their targets. And when you've got complete control over the certain part of the planet, the IDF, is managing everything with regard to the combat of Iran, the war plan. So there'll be a lot of all these vocabulary words, the Iraq, Isfahan, Yazd, Bushehr, Tehran. Yeah, you can ready to bomb piss out of that. And Barcini, Fordo, Trump, he'll stand there and he'll answer 1,000 questions. The Biden administration, you could barely find the guy. Trump, every time, every move he makes, he's got the White House press corps, parts of it, following him around everywhere. And he'll come up to the microphones and, the Secret Service will create a barrier so he's safe from being, tackled. He's talking to all the contractors. They're getting ready to plant a huge flagpole somewhere. Trump's taking live questions. So he'll stand there until the last reporter has the last question. Follow-up questions. They got follow-ups to the follow-ups. And Trump goes on and on and on. Hits them with 1,000 questions, and he's happy to answer them. He's a tough guy. How do you like Epidemic? Isn't that great? Epidemic, sad, instrumental. I get it on, I should click this, I don't know what that means. I click that. You would think a little something. Repeat. Yeah. So it's going to repeat. It's 3 hours long. I think we're going to be long on. I got a couple of things we got to do. I got an invitation from some apparent source that's close to Elon Musk. See if I can get it up on here. See if one of you guys can ferret out the truth of this. Let's see, let me go here. And we're going to go to known senders, because I think I added this guy. Yeah, let's see. I have a call at 11 with this right here with Synovus Bank. Anyway, so let's go back to here. And let me find... crap. Should be right in here somewhere. Maybe it's a file I sent myself. What's this look like? This guy wants me to join the Elon fan club. Let's just try doing a search of that. See if any of you guys, Elon Musk fan club card. Yeah, yep, there it is. Yeah, that's what I saw. You do this expando stuff. There it is. So there's a Elon Musk fan. Looks like a driver's license. Elon Musk, Tesla, qualified fan card. So I guess something like that. So I asked whoever I'm talking to, which you never know who the hell you're talking to. So if I give you want a $300 or $1,000. You want to be an executive member? It costs you $1,000. So, no, I don't have $1,000. I said, how about $20? Oh gosh. So I got him down to $100. So if I get he said, oh yeah, we'll give you a guided tour of SpaceX. Yeah, in the year 2050. So anyway, Elon membership card, VIP. Yeah, there it is. Buy now, $1,500. See that on there? I don't know if you can see that. 15 by now. What? No. Look at that. Yeah, become a member. What are the benefits? Exclusive access to private communication network. Red carpet events. Special discounts on merchandise, including Tesla, Dogecoin, etc. Access to investment platforms. Yeah. I don't know. It's pretty hefty entry fee. So you get one of these cards you can put in your wallet. So what else we got? And Elon Musk fan card. Yeah, okay. I don't see anything that says anything about fraud. Let's see, a bunch of questions. Images. Try your best to get one of these. You kidding me? This guy's like all over me. So, there's some kind of a link or something. There you go. Yep, I got my hand. God, it was like a nightmare. But this, I had to change my user ID and password at Truist Bank. It took me almost 2 hours to do it, and one person became, you need the digital support team. Just remember that. When you get connected, if you can never talk, and of course you can't talk to anybody, so you have to type it in, because you just can't say, get me to, by the time you get to someone that actually is a breathing human being, that takes you about 20 minutes of filling out this and filling out that, and they want to make sure who you are, and and then you get put on hold for 25 minutes. Then you finally talk to somebody, and they're from, Bangladesh or somewhere in that region of the world that barely speaks English. Oh, we're so happy. We're so sorry. We're so sorry. I'm so happy. I said, I want to speak to, digital support. I need this, transfer me to digital support. That's what you want. And then you get some sweet young lady in Tennessee. And by the time you get to that person, you're so whipsawed, someone was trying to transfer $800 with Zelle outside of my Jesus. These stealth bombers are so skinny. Look at it, it's like a flying wing. They got no I'm looking at this thing taking off. Jesus. Almost 30,000 pounds. Two of them, that's 60,000 pounds and 2 bombs. Or inside its belly. It's capable of flying supersonic speeds. It requires to be refilled, you know. But I should have a picture here. Which way am I going? Yeah. No, that's a watch. Yeah, there we go. A stealth aircraft and 30,000 pound bombs. So this is looking out through a portal of a refueling tanker plane that has that number 2 jet fuel, and there's a little hole in the opening of the aircraft, so you poke and you fly underneath the plane and get that sucker stabilized so that they're like linked together to a certain degree. Start pumping the fuel out into the so they got fuel gauges and so forth inside the plane. It communicates, you know, with the this device. Fills up the plane as it's heading over towards that area of the world, and you can see from the ground underneath that they're probably 20,000, 30,000 feet up. So they're 6 miles up, refueling, and then that B-2 carries on its way. I understand it takes several refuelings. So you got these aircraft, at least 2 of them anyway, you know, that are operating. So if it needs to refuel again, it can go up and get plugged in. Yeah. So that's your stealth. There's a bigger picture of it. I don't know if I brighten it up a little. Oops, no. We can. I don't think so. A little digital work here while we're in the park. I know how I see this. so much. So much. Telegram. That's what I was using. Let's see if I got the app here. T-E-L-E. There it is, Telegram. You go through all kinds of stuff to make sure it's you. Is that your right phone number? Yes, it is. Yes, I'll allow. Sure, yeah, I'll allow. All right. All right, what's going on here? Anyway, so he's telling me I have to have an Apple Card. I don't have an Apple Card. He wants me to do it right now. I said, I'm having dinner. I'm not doing it now. I'm going to do it at noon tomorrow. So, at noon tomorrow, he's supposed to send me a tag. I'll send. It's 11 p.m. Anyway, wherever this guy is. Oops. That. Thank you. See you now. Going back and forth. What's this guy? All right, we got all these. I got Lyle Johnson talking to me on Telegram. But this is supposedly a very, very private access. So he's talking to me about getting one of these Elon Musk fan card. And you flash it, use it to get into events, special events. You get seated up front or standing up front or whatever. There's some kind of privileges. There's my card I sent back to him. So I said, well, how about I'm looking for, the purple is, what does a fan card do? Unlocks so many premium. Yeah. Okay. I'm on fixed income. I'm not gonna give you $1,000. Can you make $100? How about a SpaceX private tour for 4 people? I'm in Titusville this weekend, 21st. First thing we got to do is get you the card. I said, yeah. Then all of a sudden, oh yeah, no, there aren't any SpaceX tours. Yeah, that's at least look at all this back and forth. Jesus. Anyway, Telegram. That's the service. I'll keep it open and alive. So it's a special, messaging service. You can direct connect, and it's, relatively impenetrable. As opposed to text messaging and all that, which just go, Anyway, so here's the fan club cards. Your Google searches. So you can see I'm asking questions. Let's look at AI mode. So it's going through and reading all these articles. All right, look what we got back here. Often costing around $100. It is highly likely that these offerings are scams. Oh boy. Private fan club. So we're reading this, right? Yeah. Sorry to take you down with Elon Musk fan membership card. Welcome to the future. Numerous scams, complaints, unrealistic claims, unverified membership, lack of official endorsement. In conclusion, it is very likely the Elon Musk fan club card for $100 is a scam. If you are considering purchasing one of these, be extremely cautious and do thorough research before providing any. Yeah. Yeah, so how do you verify anything? Who do you verify with? Yeah, anyway. So that's AI says no soap. So I'll probably just fade into oblivion. I'll just keep bugging these people. I want evidence that this is not a scam. Yeah, whenever they're in a real hurry, that's when you start. Hold on to your wallet. So I'm looking through. All right, let's get back to the front here. This is my source of news. I showed it to you. Let's go full. Producers, go full window in this way. So this is the front page. See the big F on the top? Inside that red box that's an F. God knows what the rest of the alphabet looks like. Look at the biggest star in the universe. Astronomy. Never leave home without it. Tiny gadgets. Interest in chicken coops on the surging. Oh, God. Look at this wet baby raccoon. Help! I wonder if you can have a baby raccoon and domesticate it. Trim its nails. I think, having the B-2 fly over Iran at 50,000, 10 miles up, and load the target information into each of two 30,000-pound bombs, and you basically drop them both within 10 seconds of each other, I guess. So one goes in first, and the second one goes in the same exact place as the first one went in. So the second one will give another huge impulse of explosive power. And basically entomb, destroy and entomb. So, it'll help crush the facility and whatever. And nothing else. The shockwave will, louse up the whole situation, turn off power, generators, needs electricity. I'm sure it's self-sustained. Look at all this. There's a whole bunch of tiny gadgets. So this is where I get my information. So then you touch on this. All right, let's see what's going on. I'm looking for that little raccoon. If I can't find it fast, I got another way to get to the raccoon story. Because I did a print screen, I think, on it. Alright, so we're going to go to my picture photo album. Alright, here's this little guy. Wet baby raccoon awaits homeowner. So if you see over in the right hand lower corner, that little emblem, that'll highlight and copy all the text that's on this photo. We don't want to do that. We just touch the text and it says select, and you just select that much and you say look it up. And I'm going to hit that, and this should be the story. Soaked baby raccoon awaits at door for help after storm. That's it. Who's? Oh God, it's asking for log. Yeah, that's all you're gonna get. That's all you're gonna get is a headline, because otherwise, it wants you. Thank you for reading. Sign up. Lebanon Democrat. I don't think so. Anyway, so sorry about that. But that's how you get the story. Celebs discuss their breast surgeries. Look it up. Let's see what this is. There we go. See, now here, several celebrities have publicly shared their experiences of receiving breast cancer diagnoses to raise awareness. This is breast cancer treatment. So the theory is, once you get treatment, you need rehabilitation. North and South Korea agree to work on formally ending the Korean War. Now that's a good idea. And get rid of the demilitarized zone and have free movement of peoples north and south. There'd be some kind of limitations because, how is North Korea, going to hold on to its power if everybody flees to South Korea? So there'll be some immigration stuff going on. Oh, here's the refueling business. Yeah. Look at that. What a crazy looking airfoil that is. You can see these little flapper dappers there, which is computerized, I'm sure, all locked in to keep that sucker perfectly steady so that it can get fuel and how long it takes. But if they don't fuel in the air, they got to land somewhere and then take off again. And that is not a very stealthy experience, when you get out of country. So here's a camera back with 4 camera holes there. Ready to buy a new iPhone? Here's why you should wait. So they have a dark image of what the iPhone 17 might look like. We actually don't know so far. There hasn't been any confirmed leaks that have come out of the WWDC, at least that I've noticed. It's mid-June. July, August, September. You got 90 days. Actually, 80 days. And then they announce it 70 days. So you got two months and a week. So by August, sometime in August, we're going to know a lot more about the iPhone 17 than we know now. Because it's pencils down. It's been pencils down. Because in order to make, the first month or two of when the formal announcement becomes something where you can go online and order it, I do it through AT&T, so I stay away from the Apple site. AT&T buys the phone as I have specified, with maximum onboard memory storage, if you will. They don't really give you memory options, like on my MacBook Air here. I've got 24 megabytes of, let me take a peek here, see if I get the words right. I've got 24 gigabytes, so I just call it memory. Let's hit more info. You can't see this, I don't think. I just call it memory. It was unified memory. It seems like I heard another kind of word on top of that. .5 is the version number of the software. Let's see. There we go. Checking updates. You see the little squirrely thing? Oh, I don't think you may not be able to see this. Come to think of it. This is outside of the software. Checking for updates. Anyway. The question is, are there going to be 4 different cameras? Or the 3 that we're used to? There we go. That's the first I've heard of 4 cameras. Yeah, if I was you want to get the new iPhone 17. Hopefully you have an Apple account. We're in a world of taking pictures. I'm a believer in the iPhone. Cameras, I tell you, they take spectacular pictures. It has revolutionized the whole picture-taking business. Everybody is taking pictures. These crime scenes, all this stuff with the border security. Everybody's got their hand in the air with an iPhone recording system going on. So everybody's got to be on guard. There's a 1900 Dell computer on sale for $500. 74% decrease. You look at the ratings are good, and I read some of those. 32 gigabytes of RAM, Intel Core i3, whatever that means. There it is, right there. That's what an Intel Core looks like. That's it. I don't think so. There you go. Amazon selling $1,900 Dell laptop for $500. Shoppers call it a powerful machine. And you can, it looks like a laptop. 16.6 inch laptop that usually responds. That 15.6 inches is the diagonal measure of the screen. Lots in stock. There's 2 gigabytes of RAM, 1 terabyte of storage. That's huge. Bad news is, it's Windows. I'm perfectly happy with the MacBook Airs that we have. That's just in case you want a Windows computer. You're looking for a new one. You can go right now to Amazon.com This is a print screen. You can just, I can just go like that and say look up. Search the web. There you go. I pushed the button for 32 gigabyte computers, which pretty much wipes out everything. There we go, Dell Inspiration, Dell Latitude. I mean, you can look through all this stuff, drive you absolutely crazy. Newegg. This is egg. There's so many different kind of configurations. There's one. 32 gigabytes. 500 gigabytes of storage. This is a tetrabyte. 579. Apparently they're all highly competitive. This is when it's a good time.
Mr. Attorney General, thank you for jumping on with us at short notice. We're trying to get this issue continues as we do.
All right, so what do you guys want to talk about? It's about 11 o'clock. I gotta get ready for a phone call with Tabitha. So I'm gonna sign off for the day, and probably got all kinds of news about the Iran-Israel conflict tomorrow. I'll be watching the news all night. I'll keep you posted. Meantime, you can go get your own issue of Flipboard. That's the software. Flipboard. You can go right to the App Store, and in that little magnifying glass, Flipboard. Did I get it? No. Flipboard. There you go. There's the app. It's been out here flipping for at least 12 years. I would call it a 5-star. Yep. Takes up 100 megabytes of space. I don't care what it takes. Yeah. I go to this 3 or 4 times a day. I've got it on all my iOS devices, iPads, iPhones, iPhone. Just got one iPhone. But here's digital display, which you can see on your own device. I highly recommend it. You input on there, it takes you 10 minutes to get started. You tell it what news sources, like New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Scientific American, Sports Illustrated, ESPN, Fox News, whatever, ABC News, CBS, MSNBC, whatever you want to say. And then you tell it what kind of stories you want to read about. I want to read about high technology. I want to read about politics. I want to read about, global stability, all this stuff. And it combines what topics you want to and what sources you want to get it from. And it produces this. And you get a slideshow when you load it up. Every time you load it up, this is what you get a slideshow of all kinds of articles that you told it to go get. And it gets them every minute. Whenever there's a new story, it pops up. All right, I gotta go. I got a phone call. I got a conference call at 11, and it's, what time is it? Oh my God, what time is it? It's 11. I got 2 minutes. All right, so I'm going to shut down here. You all have a great day. Stay safe. Okay. It's June 18th. It's Wednesday. It's the 3rd Wednesday of the month. All right. If you get Social Security checks and you're like a March baby, your check is automatically deposited. It should be. Don't get checks in the mail. Get auto deposit, auto credit to your checking account. So I have to go retrieve some money, transfer it to an account that I can go spend the money. All right. Have a great day. Bye-bye.